Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a fall storm that will be making its way across southern Canada, affecting not many locations with precipitation, but affecting a good portion of the United States and southern Canada with very chilly temperatures. Precipitation will also be there, but just more limited. It'll be more of a kind of the after effects of the storm that are going to be impactful. But definitely a classic fall storm from the north, so very interesting to see that. And if you guys are new to this channel, hello and welcome. I do all sorts of stuff about the weather, and we have a nice weather community on here, so if you want to join, consider watching the video, consider checking out the channel. And if it suits you, you could subscribe. And if you are a returning viewer, liking the video would be appreciated. So let's start this off by looking at this European model that we have right here. The European model is a very highly regarded. It's a good model, and a lot of people like to use it for a good reason, right? So let's take a look at this. Right now we have Hurricane Sally. It's going to be making its way to the southeast, or onto the southeast coast, onto probably right between the Mississippi, Alabama, Florida border, kind of between all those. I decided not to make any videos about that because, again, like I said already, if you remember, I like to leave that to the professionals. I don't really want to intermix with their forecasts. And, you know, for something like a winter storm or long-range outlooks, those things really, you know, those aren't as dangerous or life-threatening as a hurricane is. So I feel more safe doing that. The European model on this website doesn't have the view of the whole continent, and I would show you that if I could, but unfortunately I couldn't, or I can't. And this storm originates from way up north in Canada. It starts in the province of Nunavut. It's very far to the north. What we see is a lot of snow showers developing. Yeah, snow showers, pretty interesting, across northern and northeastern Manitoba, and spilling into Ontario. So definitely some chilly temperatures, as indicated by the snow. Notice we do have some rain showers and rain across southern Canada. If you are a returning viewer and haven't had a update on this channel for a while, I now include southern Canada into my forecasts. Not just this area, but the whole southern Canadian viewing area. So, the reason for that is the weather doesn't just stop at the border, and since Canada's very close, and most of the time it's already shown in my forecast or in the map that I use, I'm gonna start talking about it. If it's something like Europe, I would have to know that climate differently and switch viewing areas. But Canada is right there, so I'll include it in my forecast. Notice that as we push this into Wednesday and Thursday, so like tomorrow, we see lots of showers and scattered, isolated, maybe thunderstorms across portions of southern Canada. These will be most likely kind of squall-like, so they'll be coming through and probably gusting with some winds. A little bit of mixing, grapple possibly across portions of southern Canada. Really, this system is very dynamic, and with these type of storms, sometimes we see, especially around the fall time, closer to winter, where it's cold enough, we see rain showing up on the radar, but it actually falls as grapple, which is pretty much like soft sleet, if you will. And that forms when we have a very dynamic system, and the rain kind of solidifies, but not fully like sleet. So notice that we see, again, you can see a little bit of threat, probably some thunderstorms right north of the northeast border with Canada. This could definitely spill into portions of, Michigan, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. But notice this storm continues spinning right here. Lots of snow. Really, it doesn't seem to be widespread, right? But the pockets where it does occur, it's going to fall pretty heavily. So that definitely could lead to some whiteout conditions, possibly, trucks driving through the highway, cars, whatever it may be, may encounter a bit of some hazards with that. Notice the storm also is just very tightly packed, lots of isobars, so this will be a windstorm. It will also be producing some hefty gusts of wind. And over time, as we push into Thursday and Friday, you can see the storm really just diminishes and falls apart. And what we have in place, the storm kind of drags down this high pressure right here, and you can see how it's actually shown on this map. You can almost perfectly see it. We have these rings right around this high pressure. It's almost like if someone dropped a rock into a puddle of water. We just see these rings right here, and that's indicative of a high pressure that is either delivering in the summer hot weather, or if it's coming from the north in the fall, it usually brings cooler weather. And let's take a look at the 2-meter temperature anomalies. And I could show you that at this time frame you could see cooler temperatures would be present. I will go over that in just a bit more detail. I just want to look at the precipitation associated with this event. Again, it doesn't seem to be really a concern for flooding or any of that sort. It's just a large expansive storm. And notice where we do see that line of thunderstorms setting up into Wednesday and Thursday, we could be looking at a bit more heavier amounts of rain. But I mean, this just right here catches your attention, and that's to do with Hurricane Sally. So that's definitely just life-threatening. Nothing like that up here. But I just want to quickly show you the total snowfall accumulations, because it got to the point where we are looking at that, and notice that we have a lot of areas kind of saying that 0 to 1 inch amounts. You know, I mean, it could be snowing, but not necessarily accumulate if there are warm temperatures. And that's what we've been seeing for much of the summer across these areas. If you recall, there was 90s and 80s up here pretty often this summer, one of the warmest summers. And now they're starting to see snow, which is a bit more typical. You can see 4 to 5 inches in some areas, a few pockets under those squalls. I mean, this shows 11, 13 inches. Probably not that much, but it gives you an idea that it could be isolated in nature. So definitely a bit of a concern if it does fall concentrated in some areas. I mean, really not many folks live way up here. Sorry, the phone is ringing. Sorry about that, but as I was saying, not many folks live up here. Most Canadians live pretty close to the U.S. border. That's where most of the large cities are. Obviously, it's not like if this is completely wilderness, no one lives here. But if I do have Canadian viewers, most likely they're not from these areas. You know, maybe as far north as central Ontario, close to James Bay. But once we get up here, it's a little bit less populated. So definitely that's, I guess, the better news, if you will. It's not many folks are getting impacted by this, but obviously some still will, and just expect some snow and snow showers for those areas. The U.S., not really anything. Maybe the mountains seeing a bit. You can see 1 inch right there. So that is definitely nothing unusual, and something that could happen at this time of the year. Let's take a look at the GFS model on tropical tidbits. And actually, let's just look at the GFS on the pivotal weather, since it shows a greater area, and we could just keep things consistent, if you will, on the same viewing platform. Let's go to precipitation type and precip. Notice we have the isobars and the lines of pressure as well. So notice the storm again, pretty consistent with the European. We have very tight area right there, and this is very expansive, lots of wind, squalls, maybe a line of storms developing, and this thing really kind of spins itself into its own destruction, if you will. And obviously following that, we do see that cool off, that cool blast of air. The GFS keeps the high pressure a bit further to the north and east. A little, you know, the European keeps a bit further to the south and east, so south and west, so that introduces a bit more chilly air, but still consistent. We have that cool air that shows up, and I just want to take a look at this now and show you how much precipitation the GFS is showing. Very similar amounts. You can see the GFS has a little bit of a different layout, if you will, a bit more. If you were, it kind of looks as if you were to take the blur tool on Photoshop and just kind of blur over it. You can see that kind of shades in 1 to 2 inches over a generous area, and mainly though under half an inch, or between that half an inch and the inch area. And notice that the GFS also shows up quite a bit, or potential for rain across the northwest. Again, this isn't any significant amounts, but that could definitely still aid in the forest fire, so that is definitely good news. And obviously just the ridiculous amounts of rain in the southeast, which is extremely bad. Let's take a quick look at the snowfall, because that's just always interesting to look at. And let's take a quick look at total snowfall accumulations. And notice right there, pretty much the same deal. A generous area of 1 to 2, 3 inches, and in a few pockets where it's higher. And the further north you go, where the cooler areas with the storm, you'll see higher amounts of precipitation. Let's take a quick look at the 2-meter temperature anomalies. Let's just view this one on the tropical tidbits. I think the temperatures are showing a bit better on tropical tidbits rather than pivotal weather, but both great websites, and this should be obviously highly regarded. Notice the GFS, you can see, does show that cool air, and again, it looks as if the GFS is the more kind of conservative one. Doesn't show as much colder as a European, which is a bit odd. Usually the European is the one that's more conservative, but not in this case. Notice lots of heat across the west and northwest, California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, Alberta. We see lots of heat, and unfortunately that will be the most dominant pattern there. While we do see a few periods of cooler weather, notice that just the heat really dominates. And once the cool air kind of disappears, if you will, from the Midwest and eastern United States, and slides to the south and east, that hot air expands further into the Midwest. So definitely something to watch for. Really, at this time of the year when we see warm weather across the United States, it's more pleasant warm weather. It's kind of like this, nice warm fall day, not necessarily hot. But if we get anomalies like this a bit further to the south, then we could definitely still be seeing 80s or 90s. Notice west remains hot. A few pockets of cooler air try making its way on, but just notice the warm anomalies are just very, very outstanding, and they are at a much higher magnitude than the cool off. So definitely more of a dominant pattern there. And after this cool down, it looks as if there's going to be more of a warm pattern, a consistent warm pattern, rather than kind of these brief cool downs that we've been seeing. The first one early September with that -50 below Fahrenheit, not below Fahrenheit, the -50 degrees below average across Wyoming, Colorado, and now this one, which isn't as significant, but definitely something to still talk about. And the European model, I want to show you the temperature anomalies, since Tropical Tidbits doesn't show the temperature anomalies for the European as well, but it does for the GFS. So you just, kind of different models for different platforms. Notice that it keeps this air a bit further to the, kind of to the west, farther out to the central plains. And this isn't gonna be really anything drastic for these parts of the country, but they're just going to be closer to normal. And honestly, with the heat they've been seeing, it's still pretty nice to see that. Really, the cool air is going to be centered across the northeast, the Great Lakes, and you can see some locations seeing 10 to 15 degrees below average, maybe even approaching 20. That will definitely bring out the sweaters, so that's nice. You can see it spills into the southeast, so that will definitely provide some relief, and especially for possibly the cleanup after the storm. It's not going to be blistering heat, so that is definitely good news. And it sticks around for a while across the southeast, you can see right there. But then the heat kind of tries pushing itself back in, so definitely something to note of. And that is basically it for today's video, guys. This video was a bit long, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.